Good morning. We are less than 2 hours away from the biggest double game week in FPL history. Lots of stuff to talk about. I know a lot of people are still coming kind of umming and ahhing over captaincy. So we're going to talk about that. I've taken a -8. Ted's taken a -4. We're both thinking about taking more hits. So we're going to discuss that. Neither of us know what the other person, what the additional hit is. So we're going to discuss that live. How are you feeling this morning? Yeah, and I think people are about to tell me that you're muted, and I don't know why. Hang on a second. I'm about to get loads of spam telling me you're muted. And just try talking again. That is not good. Yeah, they're all telling me you're muted. Oh, what is the chances of this? Okay, what's the issue? What's the issue? Yeah, it's not. Oh, now it's picking it up, I think. Go on, talk again.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So we're starting
Okay.
again. Sorry about that. So you're feeling good, right?
I'm feeling very good. Like it's double game week time. It's the happiest time of the year for FPL managers. I love seeing those little two fixtures underneath each player. I've bench boosted this week, so after a wild card, so I'm hoping for a big score. So exciting times.
Yeah, we're going to talk about both our teams' captaincy choices. We've got a nice graphic, as always, from Ted as well, which we're going to go through, which is mostly, it's based around captaincy, isn't it, rather than all matches, because there's so many, it would just look crazy busy.
Yeah, usually we do go through all of the fixtures, but there's so many this week that there's just too many to cram onto a graph. So I'm just going to look at captaincy instead this week.
Yeah, and that's a big decision anyway. And by the way, the muted issue was my end, not Ted's end, so blame me in the chat. It was completely my end. I fixed it now. Annoying thing, I think I had that happen to Neil yesterday. I need to remember to fix that every time. All right, enough of that tech rubbish. Let's jump into our team. So we'll go for yours first. So looking good. You've got 11 double game weekers playing and 2 on the bench. You've got 13 double game weekers, which I am extremely jealous of. I'm trying not to get a red arrow this week. That's how pessimistic I am. And not only that, but you've got Rafinha, who I think most people for single game weekers would. I know there's not many single game weeks this week, but he is probably one of the best alongside Bamford. And then you've got best defense as well. So you're looking good.
Yeah, not too bad. I feel like I have made a couple of mistakes already with the wild card last week. I was telling you before we went live that I chose Maddison over Barnes, and it was just typical that he gets injured like the week that I bring him in. And I thought, oh, I'll just try and be different from everyone else and go Maddison, because I think they were both decent options, but I just got kicked in the teeth by choosing him. So he's one of my transfers this week. He's gone out and Barnes has come in. And I've also removed Bamford for Calvert-Lewin, and those two juicy fixtures for Everton. Southampton at home, West Brom away. You can't get much better than that in their current form. Rafinha is an interesting one. You mentioned him. He was the person that I was thinking about a -8 for a double game weeker, but I just can't see the upside in the long term. It would be for someone like Foden or someone like that. And I'm just
you've
not
only
sure.
got 2 Man City players. Interesting.
Yeah,
well, here's the question for you. Sorry, go on. This might be what you're about to say, but have you got a plan for next week for a Man City player?
Yeah, potentially. I was floating around with the idea of Bruno Fernandes to Kevin De Bruyne. And I know it's mad to even think about removing Bruno Fernandes, seeing as he's such an excellent option this season. But I think it would be just like a temporary move, because Man United have Man City and West Ham in the next 2, whereas next week Man City have another double game week, Man United and Southampton, and then followed by Fulham away. So they have 3 fixtures versus 2 toughies for Man United. So it is an option, and then I could bring Fernandes back in game week 30 after the blank. But it is a bit of a tricky one, and I'm a bit worried about going into this game week with just 2 Man City players. So
I think, to be honest, I don't want to talk you out of the -8, but obviously if you take Rafinha out, it's costing -4, so you've got to hope that Foden plays both games. I don't know how confident anyone would be about that. Obviously, he could outscore him in one game, but arguably Rafinha's got a better fixture than either of the Man City games, although obviously Man City are the best attacking team, so they're going to get goals either way. But also, obviously, Rafinha plays in 29, so potentially it's an extra transfer then, unless you've used your free hit, haven't you?
I have, yeah. So with the idea with the wild card was to get in Spurs and Villa players who both play in 29, along with I've got Areola as well, but I can't play Areola and Martinez at the same time. And then Ben White from Brighton and Rafinha on the bench. So I've actually got 7 in total, the 4 on the bench and the 3 Spurs players. And that gives me a possibility of using free transfers later down the line to bring in maybe 8, 9, 10, depending on how hard I want to go at that game week. But yeah, as you say, he plays in 29. He's in the form of his life at the moment. He looks the best player in the league right now. So I just don't think I can justify transferring him out. But yeah, hopefully that bench boost will suffice. So yeah, hoping for sort of 20 points for it. It's interesting. Like, you're triple captaining this week, aren't you? So we always seem to balance our choices. We're offsetting each other with the different moves.
I mean, I think bench boost has got to come out on top this week. I know, like, it's always easier to be like grass is greener, that I'm triple captain, therefore I think bench boost is better. But especially if you've got a couple of double game weekers on, you have to be thinking it's better than the triple captain this week. But it doesn't necessarily always work out like that. You know, Rafinha blank, Ben White concedes to Diagne or something like that. Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons I probably wouldn't be looking to take the hit as well, because you've got 13 double game weekers. A lot of people are probably not even going to go in with 11. If they're not bench boosting, then a lot of people are playing one of the leads, like Bamford or Rafinha. So, yeah. I think it looks pretty good. Are you worried about Leicester without Maddison?
I am a little bit, because they did lose in the in Europe in midweek, and he played Tielemans in an advanced role, and I'm not sure it worked out too well, but maybe it works out in the league. We just don't know. Yeah, I am a little bit worried having Barnes and Vardy, because where's the creative outlet coming from? Not sure. And Pereira's going to play in that advanced role.
It'd be interesting to see how far up the pitch he plays and in which position as well. It feels like he could be anywhere on the pitch apart from probably striker, because I don't think he's going to get there ahead of Jamie Vardy. So it'd be interesting to see. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick. It's hard to pick faults with this team. Like, there's so many options. Well, obviously there's no Salah, but you've got Fernandes, Barnes, Gundogan, Son on a really nice bench, and obviously I guess Vardy is your just due to the price is probably your pick instead of Salah. One thing I didn't ask you, what was the -4 you did?
Yeah, so it was Maddison and Bamford to Harvey Barnes and Calvert-Lewin. So I'm pretty happy with those transfers. I think there's huge upside for Calvert-Lewin, even though Everton haven't been amazing going forward. I think like Southampton and West Brom, relevant if you look at it like long term or short term, both of them have been pretty poor. West Brom have been really poor long term. Southampton have been really poor short term. So I think I can just see loads of points for Calvert-Lewin. And Barnes is just in really good form. And I just thought, I can't not go without him. Arsenal at home, Burnley away, just juicy set of fixtures. I think, like you were saying, there's not really any downside to this team, but maybe just below the surface, there is a little bit of worry with certain players. Like Son is just crazy. Like he's fallen off a cliff in terms of the chances he's had recently. I think he's only had one big attempt in this last 6 game weeks to score or assist. So those big attempts really have fallen away, and he hasn't had those clear-cut opportunities that Kane has been making for him. And I was just screaming at the TV last week against West Ham, where Kane went through and he could have crossed it to Son right in front of the goal, and he just fluffed it. So it's a bit frustrating. I find it really fascinating that Son is over 50% owned in the game, and Kane is like 25%.
Kane got injured, didn't he? I think that's possibly why a little bit. But yeah, I agree. Like, if I could only have one, Kane would be the one. I've said that all season. Even when Son was like really doing well, Kane was doing pretty much as well, and the stats were always in Kane's favour. Sometimes only slightly, but yeah, I quite like him. We'll talk about the captaincy in a minute, because I know it's such a big question this week, and we've got that graphic as well, so we'll save that for in a minute. I guess when I say no weaknesses, I don't see Son as a weakness this week. He's such a good medium-term pick, like up till 29. There's just so much potential upside. It'll be interesting to see how Bale coming into the side kind of affects him, because, you know, it's not just Kane and Son now, it's Kane, Son, Bale who can do something. And I think, you know, I don't want to get too excited about Bale, because it was just like one half versus West Ham, but
he did look good though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did look good. I've actually bought him into my fan team side.
Have you?
for Bruno Fernandes. So
Oh my god!
Yeah,
what a punt
to fund some other moves as well. I've already looked at that potentially for next week, but we'll come on to that in a minute. I'll bring in for FPL, that is. I'll bring up my team now. So in comparison, I feel like it looks a bit shoddy. I've got 9 double game week players, so I'm having to play Rafinha and Bamford. And I've taken a -8 as well. So not only have I taken a -8, but I still only have 9 double game week players. I just decided that I really wanted Kane, and like without going into this too much, no matter which way around, I could have got 11 double game weekers out, but I wouldn't have had Kane. I would have had Calvert-Lewin and I can't remember who else instead. I would have still had to play with 10 double game weekers basically, so I'd have still been missing one. So I've taken a -8. I've done De Gea, Ben Mee, Grealish, and Chris Wood out. So I've taken out... I mean, De Gea wouldn't have been playing anyway, so I know it's a double game week player, but he wouldn't have been playing anyway because of Martinez. So I would have been benching him. I didn't want to double on Man United defence this week. Ben Mee, I could have played instead of Bamford or Rafinha, so I have taken out a double game weeker. Grealish is injured. Chris Wood, who knows if he's going to play or not, and I don't really care if he does, to be honest. And so Harry Kane is in, and Gundogan had to come back. I made a mistake last week. When all that Grealish injury stuff was happening, I wasn't 100% sure it was legit. So I took out Gundogan for Rafinha, which worked out last week, right? Because Rafinha got 12 points and Gundogan blanked. But what I should have done is taken out Grealish for Rafinha and saved myself a transfer this week. But it is what it is. So it's cost me an extra 4. And the -12, so at this point, right, the -8 is done. I can't change that. It's in, it's locked in. So I now see any more as in like isolation. So the extra hit for a -12 total, for a -4 in isolation, would be Antonio to Watkins. So Watkins has a double game week this week. He also potentially has a double game week in 28, and I'm not losing a fixture because he also plays in 29. Arguably, Antonio versus Arsenal is possibly better than Watkins versus Spurs, but I think that's minute detail. Antonio plays Leeds in 27, which is good, but Watkins plays Newcastle in 28, which is almost as good, I would say. The big issue is there's no Grealish, at least for Leeds. I think for Sheffield United as well, to be honest. And if I do that move, not only do I have to take the hit, I also have to bench one of Rafinha or Bamford. So I'm taking a hit to bench one of those two. And I'm not even sure I want to make that decision of who to bench out of those two at the moment. But that's what I'm considering, to get an extra double game week. What do you think?
I think, like, on paper, it's perfectly logical if you remove the hit aspect, like Antonio to Watkins, who has a double game week, who plays in 29, has a potential for another double game week in 28. Like, I think on paper, it's great. I think one of the things that we're overlooking, and this is definitely going to happen, like 100% no, Antonio is 100% going to punish all of us that have sold him, even in the difficult fixtures. Like, he will do that because he's
not going to punish me against Man City, though, is he?
No, he's not. But like longer term, I'd say, because we're not going to get West Ham players back in for the foreseeable, maybe until game week 30, something like that. But yeah, I think you're right with the -4. And you've got Rafinha, who's in the form of his life. Like, I'd probably just withhold. And we don't know what the Aston Villa dynamic without Grealish is. Who knows whether he's going to be back next week or not, and whether or not he is back or not. You just don't know what the form of the team, because it has plummeted a little bit in recent weeks, even when Grealish did play, more erratically anyway. So yeah, it's a tricky one. I would probably not do it.
But you know what the thing is, like, I know there's no Grealish, right? And I do. Obviously, they're going to be a worse team without him, right? You take out the team's best player, they are a worse team most of the time, unless you're Man City, because they're just ridiculous. But it's Leeds and Sheffield United. Like, it doesn't get much better than that in terms of defences to play. So obviously, like, El Ghazi's probably going to come in on that left. It could be someone else, but it's probably going to be El Ghazi again. He's not going to be able to do what Grealish does, and he is quite greedy himself, right? He does like to shoot. We know that. But I just think Leeds always give up chances, always, right? It's not even a question. It's not even a debate, really. And then Sheffield United are missing 3 centre-backs. And to be honest, it's not been a good defence for most of the season either. I know they started to look a little bit better recently, but they've lost more players. So I am tempted. That one's going to go down to the wire. I don't even know who I would bench out of Rafinha or Bamford.
I think you've already made your mind up. I think you're going to do it.
I'm pretty tempted. If the game week 28 double was locked in, I would absolutely do it, because potentially Watkins has 5 fixtures in 3 weeks, and Antonio has 3, and one of them's Man City.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Yeah, it's tempting.
I think, like, personally, I definitely want Watkins at some point. I had Vardy, Kane, and Calvert-Lewin, which are 3 great strikers, but I probably remove one of those ahead of 29. Maybe if Villa have a double game week in 28, then I could just do it in advance of that. So maybe you want to think about that as well. Like, you could do it later down the line and save -4. Like, is he going to have? I know you were saying that it's great fixtures, Sheffield United and Leeds. They are great fixtures, and I mean, even Salah playing Sheffield United worries me. So yeah, does he get back that -4 that you're going to pay for him? I guess you are future-proofing the fixtures as well for Watkins. But
yeah, I mean, does Watkins -4 beat Bamford or Rafinha? That's the question. I think it possibly does. Obviously, this week there's a little bit of risk, but I don't think it would have to be. I don't think I lose out, at least. I might not make loads of gains from it, but I don't think I would be massively punished. I can't see Watkins blanking in those 2 fixtures and Rafinha getting a 15-pointer or something like that. I mean, it could happen, obviously, but I don't necessarily see it. I wish that 28 double was locked in. The other problem is, and this is where it gets a bit confusing when it's not your own team, if there is a double in 28 for Watkins, it means there's also one for Calvert-Lewin, and then I would still have to get rid of Kane or Bamford and then bring them back in possibly. So it's not ideal. Maybe I just hold, but that's what I'm thinking. We really quickly going back to the -8. I know it's big, but not only does it let me get in the player that I want to triple captain and get Gundogan back for the triple city, it's also got rid of Deadwood. So I've got De Gea and Ben Mee off my bench. So I've saved like.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. I know. I keep saying that. I've taken like 1.4 million out of my goalkeeper, and what is it in defence? Like 0.8. So I've taken 2.2 million off my bench. So long term, I feel like that will probably help me because I've been stuck with that since game week 18 when I wildcarded.
Like, no better time to do a hit in a double game week where you have a tremendous amount of upside. I can't believe that you've kept Chris Wood this long, and he just kept.
But the thing is,
chugging along on your bench.
Yeah, exactly. Because we've all got good squads, he hasn't played that often for me. I'm just still annoyed that you've got freaking injured for the double game week Burnley had in 24, because it was pretty good. And I think he could have outscored Calvert-Lewin. I know Calvert-Lewin didn't play in the end, but yeah, I think he would have been good in that. But he got me that goal against Villa, so I've got fond memories of him. That was a good moment. Even though I played him ahead of Souček, he got 15 points. But anyway, Chris Wood's been awful, but he's gone now. Let's talk about captaincy, because we've both got it on Kane. And I feel like at this point, Kane will be the most captain player, but it's taken a lot of convincing for a lot of people. Or, to be honest, I'd rather they went elsewhere. But we'll talk about why we've done it. So this is your captaincy graphic for this week. So this is using stats from the last 6 weeks. And I think if I've got it right, the bottom. So basically, what you really want is someone in the top right corner, don't you? And there isn't a standout, basically. Go on, explain it a bit more.
Yeah, so the attacking stats for each player it lasts six weeks, but I've chosen to do the defensive stats for their opponents over the entire season, just to give us a little bit of just to remove the last fixture bias and to normalize the form and then the range. So yeah, this is basically a zoomed in view of the best captaincy options. Along the bottom, it's their attacking potential, and along the side is their combined opponent's defensive potential. So the worse their opponents are, the further up the player's going to be. So we can see like Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin right at the top with the best set of double fixtures there.
And who's just below him?
Yeah, Mr. Watkins. Yeah, Leeds and Sheffield United. Yeah. I completely agree. He's a good pick. I think you've already made your mind up. You're going to bring him in. So, but. We'll see. How are you going to enjoy that Leeds game against Aston Villa?
I just won't watch it.
Oh, okay. Well, it would be a good game, I think. So you're missing out.
But I'll have a player who could score, and then he'll have another game after that. So anyway, look, we won't go through my Watkins thing, so I'm not going to do it now anyway. So yeah, Watkins just below. Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, easily the best fixtures, right?
Yeah,
easily.
they're just not as good at players offensively in the last 6 weeks compared to likes of Gundogan, Sterling, Fernandes, Salah, etc. So yeah, it is an interesting one. It's a form versus fixtures conundrum. We've got Gundogan and Sterling, the City boys, who've been really good recently, with maybe arguably a harder set of fixtures. Same with Fernandes and Salah and Mane. And we've got the people in the middle, the Kane and the Vardys, with good set of fixtures. They've just got a balance of the two. And I think maybe Kane's stats are a little bit misleading here because his XGI, his expected goal involvements, isn't that good compared to other players. But XGI can be a little bit volatile when you're thinking about the quality of the chance. I can think of loads of chances that Gundogan of Sterling have had, like a meter out from goal, where they've just headed it in, and that probably gives them a hugely inflated expecting goal involvement. Kane is actually really, really good. He's like one of the best players for amount of chances, amount of attempts. He's like got 24 small attempts, which is some of the best, and he's got 6 big attempts. So I think only 3 players have statistically better stats in the last 6 game weeks, and that's Fernandes, De Bruyne, if you think about the last 6 games that he's played, and Mane as well. So I think Kane is probably the best shout on paper, and I think a lot of people are going to go for him. I think the bubble of the people that are enthused by FPL think that everyone's going to captain Kane, where it's probably not the case. Like, as I said earlier, he's only 25% owned at the start of the week, so that's probably only inflated a little bit. So yeah, I think the fact that we've both opted for Kane is probably evidence in the fact that he probably is the best captaincy pick. But like, I wouldn't criticize anyone for going for Calvert-Lewin or for someone like Gundogan, for instance. So
Yeah, I think I've been saying this all week. I don't think there is a standout really. I mean, I'm going Kane for reasons I come on to in a second, but like Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison have definitely got the fixtures, but and they can obviously do it. We've seen Calvert-Lewin already score a hat trick this season. I think it was against. I think he got 2 or 3 goals against West Brom and 2 or 3 against Fulham as well early on in the season. So he can do it, but most of the time, it's why we don't consider Calvert-Lewin as a captain most weeks, because there's always those elite players, like midfielders for a start, always are kind of right up there in my eyes, Salah and co. And then Harry Kane's just on penalties, so he has that extra, that extra string to his bow, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
And he hasn't had one for ages, has he?
Yeah, and over the season, like if you non-penalty XG and XA per 90, he's 4th for the whole season. So I mean, what I've wanted to scream all week, all I keep seeing is form over the last 4, form over the last 6, and no one is mentioning the fixtures that have been played. And I've just wanted to scream, like, people saying Kane is not in form, right? Let me talk about his form. So in the last 6.5 games, and I say 0.5 because he came off against Liverpool, which is a tough game anyway. Like, forget what Liverpool might be like now without Henderson and how it feels like over the last couple of weeks they really have gone down a little bit more. Back when they played Spurs, it wasn't, you could say it's down to the way Spurs played, but it was a tough game for them, right? And Liverpool played well, came on off after 45. So the last 6.5 games, he scored 4 goals and got 1 assist. So if that's out of form, what the hell is in form? These are the teams he's, like, you can tell I'm ranting now, right? These are the teams he's blanked against. West Ham, right, which, okay, that one is pretty annoying because I think he probably did enough to get points. He blanked against Man City, who doesn't. He scored against West Brom, fair enough. He blanked in that half against Liverpool. And then before that, he scored against Sheffield United. He scored against Fulham. He got a goal and assist against Leeds. Like, I don't know what form people are talking about. And then when you look at Burnley fixtures, well, they're defensively in form. Well, guess who they've played? West Brom, Fulham, Crystal Palace and Brighton. They are all awful when it comes to going forward. I mean, Brighton create a lot of chances, to be fair, but for whatever reason, they can't put the ball in the back of the net. Although they did do it against Burnley. So I think you can make a case for Fernandes, for Salah, for Gundogan, for Mane, for Sterling. I wouldn't really die on a hill to talk people down from it at all. But I think this whole out of form or in form for Burnley defence is just, it makes me want to scream, as you can tell.
No, I think there's a really good point. We always have to factor in like the difficulty of the fixtures that they've had. Like, I remember that with people going like, "Oh, the Burnley defence it's been really bad recently," but they had like a really, really difficult set of fixtures, and then after that, the last 3 weeks they've been slowly improving. So, funnily enough, fixtures do affect the form of a player.
Who would have thought that fixtures matter? Who would have thought?
It's not like we, pay attention to them or anything.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fixtures over form, but I've really tried to like get away from the term form this season, or at least just not think about it too much. Like players like Kane and Fernandes or Salah will always do it. They'll always have a bad patch, right? Or like at one point this season, Salah was essential. Like he was scoring, he got points like 7 or 8 game weeks in a row. Obviously, it tied in with that haul off the bench against Crystal Palace. And then he's just gone off the radar completely for like, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. But then he scored 4 in the last 5. So they do have these patches.
We're talking about the magic formula to predict points. There are multiple different elements that come into it to predict goals and assists. Like we haven't got like points form. We've got the statistical form as well. We've got injuries. We've got team confidence. We've got all of that stuff. Like if teams started losing, like Liverpool have done recently, surprise, surprise, some of their assets have gone down and down in value, like in terms of the ability to predict points. Like Salah isn't as good as an option as he was at the start of the season, or indeed in the last 2 seasons, certainly in the last 6-8 weeks. So yeah, it's a tricky one. We all have to factor in all of these different elements to make predictions.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm just seeing some messages in the chat. Like, it's one of those weird situations where I don't want to sit here and absolutely try and talk people into Kane, because I personally, if I think he's the best captain, I'd like not to captain him. But here's some points, right? Which is fair enough. I know what you're saying about Kane, but he was very bad versus West Ham. I don't know if he was very bad. I thought Spurs were bad until the second half when Bale come on versus West Ham. But if you go into the Fantasy Football Scout members area and check out the defensive numbers, West Ham are a pretty good defence. Now, I'm not saying that we should be expecting no goals against these teams, right? They're not elite defence like Chelsea or Man City, but they're still pretty good. So I'm not massively put off by that.
No, I completely agree. West Ham have been one of the best defences this season, I think. And I think there have been multiple opportunities. Like when you watch that West Ham game, like Kane could have easily got points. Like on another day, like one shot might have just gone slightly wider. That pass to Son might have connected. I think the difficulty is, you could argue that Son is out of form a little bit, so that does affect Kane's potential to haul. But as you said earlier, like Bale comes into the team. Like if you said to me, Tottenham are going to play with a front line of Son, Kane, and Bale all season, and you go, crikey, I'll get all of those players in. I need to, because that screams points in general. If you remove all of the form, all of the stats, and you just think about the last couple of years of experience and how good a player all of those 3 are, then there's definitely points potential for those in any game. And they've got Burnley and Fulham up next. So just treat it with a
Burnley team that didn't do very well against 10 men West Brom. I know I can't find the comment now, but it was about Spurs in general. And I do agree, like Spurs are, for all those goals at the start of the season, they're not as good an attacking team as we think they are. But when they do score, the difference between them and Man City is Man City score a lot of goals, but you're never quite sure who's going to get those goals. Whereas Spurs don't score as many and they don't create as many chances. Like they're just not as good an attacking team as City. But when they do score, it usually goes through Kane and Son. Maybe we could add Bale into that now. If he's going to keep starting, but we don't even know if that's the case, right? Is he going to start both in a row? We just don't know that.
We just don't know. Just don't know. Like who knows whether he starts and plays 90? Like he hasn't done that yet, I don't think. So it's jumping the gun a little bit. And they're going to have 2 fixtures in quick succession. So I doubt Bale plays twice in a row. Who knows?
And I'm just sorry, really quick. I've just seen another comment similar to the Burnley one, that Fulham are informed defensively, but again, they've played Sheffield United and Burnley, not great attacks at all. They played Everton, and I actually think if I could, I'm not going to go and check now, but I don't think Everton's attacking stats have been that great. And then West Ham. So the West Ham result and the Everton result were really good, but it was only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game weeks ago where they conceded 2 to West Brom. So again, I think Fulham are a good defence. Do I think they're good? I don't think they're awful. I'll say that, but they're not. Again, I don't know. I just got this thing in my head. Like, if we can't target Burnley and Fulham, who the hell are we targeting? Like, it's surely not Chelsea. Like, that's what puts me off Salah and Fernandes. I just think Chelsea's defence is so good.
Who are the worst teams? Like, I think Crystal Palace are one of the worst teams. Like, Everton's defensive stats have been really poor. No, actually makes me think that Diagne from West Brom could be a really, really cheeky differential pick, and a differential captain. Like, he's got Brighton and Everton. I know Brighton have been strong defensively recently, but they conceded 2 to Palace. So, and I guess they weren't big chances or anything, but they're not invincible. I think Diagne looked really impressive, actually, and he's come in and played 5 or 6 games. And
Should have scored
got,
twice
like,
against us.
yeah.
He did score once, but he should have scored again. Like he's like he's a bit like Kane and Son, where West Brom are not that great an attacking team at all. It's not quite the same, by the way. I'm not saying I'm not saying the Spurs are as bad as West Brom, but that his personal numbers are quite good, like his expected goals per 90 and stuff like that. It's actually not that bad.
No, it's really good. Like, if you
yeah.
were going to put him on this captaincy graph, like, he would be between Vardy and De Bruyne right there. Because I had him on initially, and I was like, no one's going to captain Diagne. But yeah, I think he's a really great option. He reminds me of Rondon when a couple of years ago when he was like in form, and I remember having him in my team, and no one wanted to bring in Rondon because why would you? But he was scoring every week.
Yeah,
and,
he had good numbers himself, didn't he? Yeah, I think it's always worth looking at, because like City, obviously, like I said just a minute ago, are great, but it's just you just don't know where the goals are coming from. If someone's just asked us why are you not captaining Gundogan. To be honest, it's a great question. I guess for me, it's just I don't know if he's going to start twice. In the back of my mind, I think despite Pep coming out and saying De Bruyne is fit, he's really fit or something like that, or he's completely fit, I got this niggling feeling that he's not actually fully match fit. I think there is a good chance that Gundogan starts twice, with or without De Bruyne, by the way. So I just think he's been so important. And the Champions League game's not wrapped up, but then they're probably not going to lose it. So I actually think Gundogan has a good chance of playing in both. Whether or not he plays 90 minutes, I doubt it. But have you got any consideration for City captain?
I don't actually know. Like, the reason why I wouldn't captain Gundogan is not because of his amazing form, his amazing stats. Like, obviously they speak for themselves, but I wonder a little bit about the team dynamic when they have personnel back like De Bruyne. Like, Pep said in his press conference that he was fully fit. I know you've got reservations about it, but when De Bruyne starts playing, it does change the team dynamic. And I know Gundogan still gets in the box, but are the similar type of chances going to be created for him? Is Foden going to play? Is Sterling going to play?
Yeah.
I don't know. It is a bit tricky.
Gundogan did like this whole, Gundogan's. If we're going to use the term form, Gundogan's in pretty good form, right? He scored like 13 goals. No, sorry, he scored 11 goals in the league, and he didn't score a goal till game week 13. So ridiculous scoring run. He's definitely overperformed a little bit, for sure. So at some point that will regress. As always, it's impossible to say how long that will take until the numbers start evening out. And that did start with De Bruyne in the team. So I think me with Gundogan, he's just too good value to turn down. But for captaincy, it's like I said, for me, like, I just can't look past Kane. He's on penalties, and despite what Mourinho said about Vinicius yesterday, about how he's going to play in the Premier League because Kane can't play every game, they've got 3 league games until the next Europa League. I just don't see Kane missing out at all. He's going to play 80 to 90 minutes unless he gets injured, and if he does, whatever, you can't predict that. Although he's just back from injury, I suppose, and he's on penalties. Like, so, and that is just, we see it all the time with like Bruno Fernandes. I know Man United win more, but as soon as you get a penalty, it's just an easy way to top up your points. Like, and
absolutely,
the bonus system doesn't care whether it's a penalty or not.
So do we know whether Gundogan is still on penalties for City?
We haven't got a clue about City penalties. I think we need Sterling, Gundogan, De Bruyne, Ederson. Who took the last one? Rodri, all on the pitch at once when they get one. My money is on De Bruyne getting them back, because I don't think he ever should have really stopped taking them anyway. But who knows?
Yeah, I really like Kane. I'm just picking Kane because he's guaranteed 90 minutes for both games. Like, he will be. He's the player on that chart that will be guaranteed 90 minutes each time. I know he's back from injury, a fair while ago, but still, he doesn't play without playing 90 minutes, basically. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, go on. No, finish on.
Yeah, so I just think he's one of the few options this week, and I really do like these weeks where we've got a variety of options, because it just means that there's more variety. You can root for all of your players because of their effective ownership is going to be lower than 100%. Calvert-Lewin, Watkins, Kane, Vardy, Gundogan, Fernandes, Salah. I love it. There's so many options.
I see. I sort of disagree slightly, but only because I disagree now because we haven't seen the stats. But I've got a feeling there's going to be more players over 100% than we realise. Like Fernandez, 100% will be over. Well, no pun intended. 100% he'll be over 100%. He has been even when he's not had a double. Now he has a double. There's triple captainships in play. He's definitely over. Kane will definitely be over, I think, and I think Salah might be as well because I think Salah, for me, last week was like 80% effective ownership when no one was even thinking about captaining him. And
There's a huge trade-off, isn't there? Like what you're saying that there's going to be a few players over 100%. Well, that probably makes Kane even more of a differential if people are captaining
definitely
those players. So there's going to be a trade-off. But I don't know about you, but I really hate looking at the effective ownership.
Me too. I hate that I know about it. I hate that I know it's a thing.
It ruins the enjoyment of watching a game and thinking, oh, I don't really want Fernandez to score here because it puts me down a few places in my rank. So, yeah, it's not very fun, but it is what it is.
No, I fully agree. It's not fun at all. The only way to get rid of it is to get rid of captaincy or to get rid of everyone telling us about it. But, yeah, I know it's a thing. I know Fernandez is going to be over. I think Salah might be as well. But the only thing is, if that happens, then players like Gundogan and Son are definitely going to be under, I would say. So at least you can kind of cheer on their points, and obviously you're captain. I just think the triple captainship in play makes it even worse, doesn't it? Like, we should really before we go, right? Let's touch on Fernandez quickly, because we've barely mentioned him, and he will definitely be heavily captain this week. What do you, before I say my piece, what do you make of his prospects this week?
He's got some, if not the best stats in the league, and that's been consistent for the whole season. Basically, he's an outstanding player. He's the linchpin in that Man United side. Even now, he's got the best number of attempts. There's no reason why he can't do well against Chelsea and Palace, even though Chelsea have done much better defensively. I think they're the second best defense statistically at the moment. So Tuchel has tightened things up at the back. But I mean, those games, the Man United versus Chelsea games of old, they're unpredictable when you have two big sides going against each other. You can throw stats out the window. Bruno could definitely get something. The amount of times we've watched Bruno and he's done nothing all game, and then he gets like 18 points in the last 5 minutes or something. He's got a knack for getting on the score sheet. And 2 fixtures, one against Palace, who's the worst defense in the league right now. He's definitely an option for captaincy, 100%.
Yeah, I feel like, personally, I feel like it's all down to that Palace game. I just think that it's the Chelsea one. It's not even that Chelsea defence is just so good. It's also just the way Man United will approach that game, and it will not be to attack. Like they'll probably try and counter attack, I would say. And Fernandez will probably drop deep to get on the ball more, because I just think if he plays where he usually does, it's just not going to happen. I mean, he drops back quite a bit anyway, but it's just the type of game. Like the reverse fixture was 0-0. Like the reverse fixture was awful. Neither team really attacked at all. They were really cagey. And I just think the way the league table is right now, it wouldn't be good for Man United to lose that game, and I think Solskjaer will know that. Obviously, caveat, you never want to lose a game, right? I fully get that. But just the way the league is right now, and there's so many teams still that could get top 4. Like Man United are not safe in that top 4 spot by any stretch. So yeah, that's the only thing that puts me off. But you know what it's like. All it needs is for Man United to win a penalty at any point during that game. He puts it away, and then he's suddenly up to 8-9 points, and he's still got probably one of the best fixtures this week to come. I do think he's a really good captaincy option. I'm just going to bet against him, I guess.
It's not like solely down to like Man United being lucky getting loads of penalties. There's surely another factor that you've got players in that team, like Rashford in particular, that has like a really perfected way of getting penalties. Like, not necessarily he's doing it on purpose, but the fact that he's so tricky with his feet in the box. Surely there's other teams that don't get penalties because they don't have those sorts of players that can win them, like Zaha and the Milivojevic thing of old. There's surely no coincidence, right?
Yeah, I mean, we probably shouldn't get into it too much before we get lynched for saying that Man United just have the refs in their pocket. But
that's not what I was saying.
I think it's always likely that teams like Man United, Man City will get penalties just because of the players they have in that front line. Just so tricky with pace. is what you want, right? So, yeah, Fernando's a good captain. I'm going to bet against him. It's going to be a tough watch for anyone that's a neutral and is purely worried about effective ownership, because there's no way he's not above 100. I think we could see like 120% ish for a couple of players, but we'll see. Anyway, we'll leave it there. This is my team, so I've taken a -8. David De Gea, Ben Mee, Grealish, and Wood out. I've bought in Fabry and Burn for the bench, and then Gundogan and Kane triple captain, and then Ted has taken a -4 for Maddison, who's obviously injured, to Barnes, and Bamford to Calvert-Lewin, right?
Yeah, spot on. Really happy with that.
Yeah, I'm Calvert-Lewin's one of the players I'm dreading having to watch this weekend, to be honest, not owning him. I can't get to him. If I could do a -4 for Antonio to Calvert-Lewin, I would have done it already, to be honest. But yeah, I might consider the Watkins move. But yeah, Ted's bench boost in. I'm triple captain in. We're both captaining Kane. Good luck this week, Ted. Thanks for joining me.
And to you, mate. Speak to you soon.
Good luck, everyone. Make sure you hit the like button if you've enjoyed this. There's loads of you watching, so make sure you hit that. Hit subscribe as well. We'll be back next week for loads of content. Good luck this week.